Hi Aquarius, what's going on? We are here with a timeless reading. The first card that we have out is Two of Cups. And we also have Knight of Wands. Okay. Having Two of Cups and having Knight of Wands gives me the feeling of something coming together. It can even be something that you've connected now. It can be something that you've connected with, and this even feels like a motivating or driving force. Knight of Wands is the part of you that you're going to want to do something. Two of Cups comes together and it can feel very inspiring when that happens, because it can almost feel like these... I see Two of Cups as kind of being like a yin-yang energy. So having that come together, it can feel like something is complete. It can be a feeling is complete. It can be an understanding is complete. It can be just something that pulls together in a way that feels like the whole picture is there. And there can also be choices that will be made that are connecting with this. When we have Knight of Wands, this is the part of us that feels, we can feel revved up about something, we can feel excited about something, we can feel inspired by something. And so having this feeling of things being together and everything feeling right in that way, it can have us wanting to express something, wanting to do something, wanting to be proactive. However, the next card that we're faced by is Two of Swords, so there can be something that comes up where you may have to figure out how it is that you want to do this, or maybe a choice that needs to be made that's connected with this. It can feel kind of like you're at a crossroads. And then having Page of Wands, this can really be about like this path or that path, what do I want to do? And I'm also seeing Eight of Pentacles. I feel with Two of Cups and Knight of Wands, like something is connecting for you and this feeling important. Because having that happen can mean something. There can be something that's implied by this happening. And it feels like a catalyst to me of like, this has come together and now I want to do something about it. Now what to do exactly? And then when we have that, so Knight of Wands wants to go somewhere. So they're looking for a path. Page of Wands is going to be that path, but having Two of Swords before it can show maybe there are multiple paths that can be taken, multiple routes, and needing to pick which one is going to go down. So if I have this, what do I do with it? Where do I want to be going? I have multiple options. And it can be the type of path that you want to be going down as well. Now I'm also seeing Eight of Pentacles and I'm seeing Ten of Swords. Eight of Pentacles is when we've been working on something, and it can be working through something and figuring things out, stuff that we've been putting a lot of energy into. When we have the Ten of Swords, it can mean that something that's been going on mentally is now closing out. It's not something that we're trying to really figure out or that we need to give more mental energy to anymore. It's kind of like we've given everything we needed to mentally to that. And maybe that's leaving you feeling a little anxious. I'm seeing Nine of Swords and I'm seeing strength. I feel like some type of process is happening and you have to sort of talk yourself through this or support yourself through this. And you have to tell yourself that you got this, but there can be a part of you that maybe feels like it's wavering a little bit. Maybe you feel startled. Having the Ten of Swords be here can show like I've been putting energy into this, more and more mental energy. I've been focusing on it, but now that that's not really necessary anymore because the Ten of Swords is here, and so like something else is going to be happening for you to be giving your attention to. In that moment, you can look around and say, well, it's not going to be for this anymore. So like, where am I supposed to be putting this energy? And so there can be a kind of unsettled feeling there of knowing that a shift is happening. And I think in that moment, it can feel kind of startling because you know that something is changing, like you're in the process of an energetic transition that's taking place. And obviously, this is something that you're gonna move through. I find it interesting that we start the reading in such a way where it looks like really hopeful and really connected and really excited and wanting to move forward, and then we see these things that are going on that feel feels like a lot of work to me. But maybe this is what needs to be done in order for Two of Cups and Knight of Wands to be able to continue on the journey here. A choice needs to be made about the path that one wants to be taking. And maybe part of this too is that with Eight of Pentacles and Ten of Swords, maybe this is about if I choose this path, then I can't choose that path. And can I get through that? Which obviously you can, but you know when you were like anxious and moving through something, like we can question even that. Seeing strength shows like this is definitely something that you can get through. It's not going to be a problem for you, but you're going to have to believe that. You're going to have to see yourself as capable, as able to move through this. So you're having some type of breakthrough with the Two of Cups. So yeah, I definitely say that this puts things into perspective for you, and I feel too like it motivates you as well. You have clarity. I don't know how exactly you feel about that though. There can be maybe some mixed feelings that are connected with this. Even though I'd say that you're seeing clearly emotionally, I'm not seeing so much about what's going on that end of things. It feels like there have been these puzzle pieces and it's like, does this one go together? Does that one go together? And it's like, haven't been finding those pieces that go together. And now in this moment, it's like the pieces that go together are put together. And everybody looks around and just sees that those pieces are put together, and those obviously are the pieces that go together there. And so it feels like that's going to be the beginning of something there. It feels like something is accomplished. It feels like that also means that something is going to be happening now that we see those pieces go together. And then having that Knight of Wands feels like, well, now that that happened, now something is going to be done about it. And it feels like maybe there's a lot of stuff that has to be maybe closed out, maybe finished up, maybe allowed to run its course, or even some things to be released. I feel in the beginning like this is a moment when something becomes very obvious, and so there's no room to really question it, which can feel nice on a mental level. Again, I don't know what's happening on an emotional level. I'm not really seeing much to indicate that. So this means there's a slowing down. That Ace of Swords brings things to light. And yeah, see how with the Ace of Swords, there's this, the third eye with the little creature over here. It looks like a lamb to me. So having that, I really do feel like something becomes very apparent in a moment where there's no arguing against this. It just, that's what it is. And it feels even like there being a piece, like those pieces go together, and it feels like there is a peace of mind then, because we know that those pieces go together, and it's been something like trying to figure this out. And so I even feel like this clarifies something. This clarifies maybe like something that one feels inspired to be doing now. How they're going to do that, though, that has to be decided upon. This is coming up and saying, well, now I know there's something here to do. How I'm going to carry that out, I haven't figured that part out yet. And maybe there's a desire not to have to do anything about this yet. So it feels like feeling within me saying there's something to do now. Then I feel like it's not the easiest maybe to figure out how exactly to do that. And then wanting to sort of go back into like maybe not doing anything. So it feels like a little bit of a cycle here. I'm getting confirmation of this. I feel like a choice needs to be made, and like maybe it can actually be made now, but one may not be feeling totally up for this. The way that I'm seeing this Four of Cups running towards the Four of Swords, but having Two of Swords sort of looming over it, it feels like that moment where there's an expectation. What's your choice? What's your decision? What are you going to be doing here? And I feel like Four of Cups is that part of us that wants to like get away without having to give an answer and like crawl under a rock and or like crawl away somewhere where they can't be touched, because crawling away to the Four of Swords is kind of an untouchable place. So I feel like this Four of Cups is trying to like go over here and hide behind this where like nobody can disturb them. Because that Two of Swords is hanging over their head, like choice needs to be made, choice needs to be made, and this feels like running away from that. Wanting to anyway, that would be the feeling. So this doesn't feel like, yeah, I get to make a choice with the Two of Swords. This feels almost like I don't want to do that. That's going to be the feeling. I don't know if that's actually, we can have the feeling and still make a choice anyway. This would be the feeling about it. So there's not an enthusiasm about making this choice. This is connected with not feeling too enthusiastic right now about a current path that one is on. This can be like a relationship, a current relationship. It can be a current project. It's like something that's being worked on. And I think something that requires enthusiasm and inspiration and your energy for it, like it requires that. It needs to be like fed by that essentially. And this feels a choice needs to be made about something that's sort of hanging in the balance. This thing that's hanging in the balance, and there can be you over here like, I don't want to decide. That's what I get. And kind of like, leave me alone. I get that more than anything actually with this. It's funny though, because I feel like I'm feeling driven to do something, and then getting to that point where a decision needs to be made in order to progress further, and not wanting to make the decision and like running away and like going back. And then feeling motivated again, and then sort of like getting up to the plate and then like running away from it. It feels like something like that, it just feels like a circle that one keeps running in. So there's maybe like a little bit of what feels like progress, maybe a little bit of what feels like regression, but it's just that same circle that laps are being run within. And all to, I think, avoid a decision. But maybe also one is feeling like they're not in the best place to be doing this too. That can be part of it as well. Maybe this is a time where it's like you've been writing a song and you feel totally uninspired by it right now. Maybe you want nothing to do with it, but maybe you also don't want to throw it away. So maybe you feel like you need more time to yourself. Maybe it's actually going to be good to go into that position of the Four of Swords and just take more time until things become obvious. I do almost feel like they're obvious already, but maybe you just, maybe in a way mentally things are obvious, but maybe emotionally it just feels like too much, and that's why you want to take more time here. Don't want to do this yet. You know, it's like it's one thing to know in your mind, like, this is what needs to be done. It's another thing to actually do it. Maybe you don't feel like you have the energy to actually do what needs to be done here, and that's why there needs to be more, like, resting or something before you're doing that. Moving forward into the past. Okay, so this is something that you've been at for a long, long time. I'm seeing there be both momentum and then also a stop. So we have both of those things. There's movement and there's a stop. That stop feels like what it's connected with is something that's already been worked through, and so you don't have to give your focus to it anymore. It's like something that you can't do anything more to it. It's like maybe something that you see as being, well, I don't want to call it a problem. When you're just working on something and you're focused on it and there's stuff that you're doing with it mentally, like there's still more to sort of mold mentally, you're involved in it. But it's like when there's no more molding to be done, that's going to be the Ten of Swords. There's nothing else to be doing here. But this can feel very weird because I'm seeing this has been, it feels like this is something that you've been working with mentally for a long, long time. Like this is something that you've time and time again been molding with your mind, and to sort of run out of that medium, well, what to do now? And so that feels almost like a shocking moment of, maybe this is just something where you never thought that you'd really run out, and then there's just nothing there anymore. So there's nothing more to work with anymore. And if you're used to it, feels like shocking because if you're used to that, but then there's no more, it feels like the difference between those two things, between like movement and then that stopping because you've run out. It's like running out of gas. There's no more gas left, and so you're not going to go anywhere. But maybe like you haven't had to get gas for 10 years. So now like the thought of not having any more gas, and it's not like you can't get gas anywhere else in the world, but it feels like one of those moments where it's just like, I haven't had to get gas in so long. I've always had it. I didn't think that I was going to run out. Like I'm not used to it. It's just that. If you've been doing something a certain way and then all of a sudden that thing happens, where there is that no more, when there had always been more, but now there's not. It's that moment of adjustment that can feel kind of jarring. Like nowhere else to move, nowhere else to go, nothing else to work with. And to be, having been working on this for so long, it's like every picture that we work on, every like little symbol that we make in the canvas of our lives, you have a certain amount of thread that you get for it, and this feels like the moment where you run out of the thread. And so even though there's going to be more thread to work on other things, like for this thing, there's no more. And then I think like the part of you that can be resting within your soul can look at this and zoom out and say, well, there's going to be more thread for other things because it's a whole canvas. It's a whole tapestry. But that part of you that's attached to what you were working on, even though it's like, I feel like the thread determines when you're done. You don't determine when it's done. It's in that moment where you can be having a hard time, I think, wrapping your mind around that, even though you know you're going to get a thread for like the next thing that you're going to be working on. It's just you're not going to be doing this anymore like that. And I think in this moment that's connected with, from like a human perspective, being like, there's no more. Like I had a dream for how this was going to be and I wasn't finished with it. I think that's the part where we can get really caught up. But as far as the part of you that rests in that deeper part of your soul, you're not going to be freaking out about this. It's just that part of you that is the ego saying like, can I get a little bit more thread? I wasn't finished with it. But again, like the thread determines when you're finished and it ran out. So you're done with this part of it. I feel like you've been working on this for a long, long time. Yeah, this is one of those times where it feels like the weight of the world rests on your shoulders and you have to be stepping up and you have to be in charge and you have to be the one that's like basically, it's like you have to be the adult in this situation, I guess we can say. And this can be a time where you're like, oh, can't somebody else do it? I feel too like just being kind of tired moving through this as well. That Four of Cups is feeling to me like maybe you feel like you've been being dragged all around the place. And at this point, you're like, more responsibility, more discipline, more stuff that I have to be doing here, more things that stress me out and I still have to work through it, like more trying to figure out my life and be the architect when I don't want to be the architect right now. And it's like there's nobody else to look to except for you. And obviously you're capable of doing this. You're not doing a job, you're not in a position that you're not qualified for. You're very qualified for this, but you can feel unenthusiastic. You can feel tired. Maybe you feel like you need a break. Maybe you feel kind of scared. Maybe you don't like change. Maybe it's not preferable. And so even from a zoomed out perspective, you can look at this and be like, I know everything's fine. At the same time, from a more micro perspective, it doesn't necessarily feel like that, and that's still valid. And you're allowed to have those feelings. I think that your fuel is very much coming back to you. I'm seeing something that feels like you're being recharged. You're going through this. There is a switching of hands sort of that's taking place. It's like very much like sewing. You know when the spool runs out of thread and so you have to like put the new one on there? It's one of those moments where there's that thing that's happening. So there's that like little transition that's taking place. and then something else is going to be worked on. But it's kind of like in this case, for this example, when you run out of that spool of thread and you put a new one on, like you have to start working on something else. That's kind of what it feels like to me. But it's like all in your, what is it? What is it when you have like a whole collection of something? It's like it's all part of your collection. So even though it may be like a new piece that's being worked on or like a new little thing that's being worked on, it's still a smaller portion of a bigger picture of what you're working on. So it still sort of falls under that umbrella. With the energy that I'm seeing here, I feel like this is about tapping into your core truth here, tapping into your resilience, tapping into your heart, your soul expression, and finding your energy. This is going to be a reconnecting with your fire, reconnecting with your motivation, your self-expression, your creativity, your willingness, your life force. Seeing also two themes being connected with the Emperor, which is Aries. This is about you leading your life. This is about your own individual preferences. This is about you being in charge of things. This is about things being how you want them to be. And this can also be about curating things in a way that maybe feels more like on your terms. That can be part of this too. I feel a strength that's sort of coming back into the picture. Like even you coming back together with yourself here. And I think seeing what's really important. And also seeing what you've outgrown as well. That can be part of this too. What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? What are we doing next? So Knight of Wands is moving towards the Emperor. So I'd say that there's a motivation for you to build something that's feeling substantial. So I'm seeing this can be working on that aspect of yourself. It can be working on how that is reflected in the life that you're living. And this can be more about if you got to be the one that had a say in everything, like all your stylistic choices, like everything on your terms, how you wanted it to be. And this is like concentrated Aries energy, okay? Like what you want and having those things and all of this. Having Knight of Wands, I feel like this is the part of you that's sort of coming awake now and saying, hey, I want to move around, like I want to be exercised, as we all have the Knight of Wands within us. And this is the part of us that feels ambitious. This is the part of us that feels excited. This is our go-getter energy. This is the part of us that like we want to live our lives. We like the things that are going on. We feel excited to wake up out of bed in the morning. Maybe we don't really even want to go to sleep because there's just so much to do and we're having so much fun. That's the direction that you're moving in. And it feels like this is sort of the work in between and just needing to do this as it is part of it. And I think also like taking care of your mental health and working with yourself when you feel scared, when you feel triggered, when it starts feeling like all too much. Like how do you calm yourself down? How do you center? How do you rest? How do you do things that bring you back into a place of peace, I think, in your being? And to choose now from where you stand. I think there can be this part of you that like, you know that you're gonna run out of the thread and not really wanting to. That can be the part of you that just wants to freeze here right now. And that it feels like that's why there's this hesitation of like, you sort of know what's up ahead. And at the same time, there can be a part of you that's like, I'm not ready for that part yet. That can be the feeling anyway. I think too that this is about like not holding yourself back either. Following your heart, believing in yourself, keeping your heart open when it comes to what you're doing and what you want for yourself. Knowing that nothing is out of reach for you too. That's definitely an ethos when we have Aries. And I think just being in charge of yourself and how this is going. This can be something that illuminates a lot for you within your core. And I feel like because of this happening, there are things that come to light and there are implications of these things as well. And I think too, what you're seeing is how strong you are. You're seeing how resilient you are. You're seeing how you can go through things and that you can make it out on the other side. And this is just further proof of that. And having King of Wands be the card that we have on the bottom of the deck at the end of this spread, I really do see this as fuel coming back. Like whatever it is that lights you up, it feels like this is coming back into the picture. And maybe it was something that you felt like it wasn't fully there before, and now it's time for this to be reinstated. And so you can feel like you're sort of coming back full force. It's a process. So this is what's in the process of happening. I'm seeing Leo and I'm seeing Aries. All right, my friends, we are going to leave the reading here. I would like to thank everyone for connecting. I'm also seeing Pluto. Thank you for tuning in. I'm sending everybody love, and I hope to catch you guys next time.